What's up, world? Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Point Blank podcast. Point Blank explores news and updates in health, business, relationships, and more. The podcast also features guests that are transforming industries, challenging norms, serving as catalysts for momentum, and offering some fresh perspectives. I'm your host, Steve Blank Jr., and since 2016, I've leveraged the modern media landscape to help businesses and brands create more content and make more money. Need a new website? Ready to launch a podcast of your very own? Visit steveblankjr.com today to learn more about why some of my clients are calling me a complete game changer, verbatim. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share on all of your favorite social and streaming platforms. Let's jump right in to the latest edition of the Point Blank podcast.
There we go.
Name's Kelvin?
Yep.
I've literally
Kelvin.
never met a Kelvin in my entire 36 years on this planet. I've learned of 2 Kelvins in the last 2 weeks.
Pretty cool. Yeah. My parents, it's kind of crazy because my dad's name is Elvin and he wanted me to be a junior. And my mom was like, I hate that name. I want him to be like a Keith or something. And they compromised on Kelvin.
I'm with it.
And it turned, yeah. I'm just glad I wasn't a Keith.
Right. I'm a junior, but my dad's name is Steve, not Steven.
Mm.
And my last name is legitimately Blank. My middle name is Larry, not Lawrence. And because my dad wanted to make me the junior, that makes me the junior. So I ended up with this clunky ass Steve Larry Blank Jr. phenomenon going on here.
Hell yeah.
Which full blown sounds like an alias. Are you
Yeah.
are you in a good position to, can you shoot horizontal by chance?
I think I can. Let me see here.
I'm sure it'll reorient. It's just a matter of whether or not you
Yes.
got, somewhere you can put your thing over there. I'm sure I don't have to tell you too much about my approach to video here, but essentially, like, I'll use all these widescreen formats wherever they'll be palatable, and then pull from that to repurpose for video and all that good stuff. So there you go. You're doing all the shit I do when I prep other people. So I do podcast production for like other businesses and brands, and a lot of times, especially early on, I'll jump on the call with them, and when they're doing remote recordings, just on some, make it warm and fuzzy, meet and greet, kind of break the ice a little bit. But the real reason I'm there is to get people to adjust their camera or their lighting a little bit. Like, all too often, you can see how long it's been since somebody wiped the lens of their webcam, like actually cleaned
Yeah.
the monitor, and you're like, oh, it looks like you're shooting on a sidekick. Like, if you use a paper
Yeah.
or your t-shirt even for just a split second, we'd be shooting a different kind of content right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then when everybody's doing Zoom too, like, because we're so used to it from work, people do Zoom like this all the time.
Yeah.
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 And if I make a
This,
TikTok out of this, then you just end up looking like Oz, you know?
yeah. Yeah, for real. Or like what's his name? Zordon on Power Rangers.
And that's the move, yeah. I guess especially as things gray on me, I'm more Zordon like than Oz, but that's good to know. It's good. That's why it's important to talk to new people. Um,
Hell yeah.
and then the other thing people do a lot is they'll leave way too much headroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta say, like, hey, I don't know if you can tilt, or what we can do, but if we can get rid of some of that space over your head without giving you a lobotomy. So that's like me trying to be fun and friendly about saying, like, all right, we'll do it, but don't do it too much, because then you're gonna have half a head in all your clips,
Yeah.
But anyway, where am I speaking to you from, man? What's your location?
I'm currently in Erie, Pennsylvania, brother.
All right, born and
Right
raised.
on the lake. No, actually I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. Spent a little bit of time there. I did go to school here as well in Erie, Pennsylvania, and then my parents moved to Ocala, Florida, while I was still here in school. So I just finished school here and then moved down to Ocala, Florida after that. Spent some years there. And I came to visit Erie to visit a cousin. And I wasn't, when I lived here, I wasn't like 21 or anything. So when I came to visit, they're taking me places where you could get like beer for a quarter. Like they had these specials, like quarter draft beers. And I'm like, there's no way I'm spending $6 on a few drinks. And then down in Florida, you're spending like $30 just to get in the door. And I was like, all right, you know what? I think I can hang out here for a while. And I
Yeah.
just stayed and never left. I was like, this is pretty cool town. And it's right on the lake, beautiful. You get all four seasons.
So
A lot going on. I love it here.
what's the distance like to like your nearest major metro areas? Like what are the closest cities that you could bounce to and how long does it take you to get to any of them?
Okay, so Buffalo's about an hour, 15 minutes away. Cleveland is closer to 2 hours. Pittsburgh is like an hour and a half. So we're right like in the middle of those three.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
it's
dope. And so with the
yeah.
relationship to, let me make sure I'm clear on your body of work at this point and like the
Mm-hmm.
direction you're looking to continue to take things. Obviously working in media as a photo video professional, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And you make
Uh,
music also?
As well, brother. Yep.
So
I started
which
off
one came first in
making
your life? Music?
I'll say again.
Which one came first in your life? Music?
Definitely yep, definitely the music. I grew up in a very musical household. My dad is a musician. I got a whole ton of cousins, uncles. They all play music. So it was just, we grew up in church. So it was kind of like eventually they're gonna put me on some instruments to fill the rankings there and the worship team.
Yeah.
So it was that's how I got into it. But I definitely went music route first, and when I wanted to find, I guess, photographers and videographers that were for my style, I was really struggling to find that. So I just kind of figured like, why don't I just do it myself? And found out I really, really liked it and
Yeah.
went from there.
That's cool, man. That's to say I can relate a little bit would be a bit of an understatement. Um I was like super into written word in creative form early in life, not necessarily storytelling, more so like poetry.
Hmm.
And I'm talking like third, fourth grade at this point. Fifth grade comes around, I'm introduced to hip hop early that year. By the second half of the year, I'm writing 16s, I'm writing verses.
Hell yeah.
Sixth, seventh grade, the internet and digital audio workstations start to really become more commonly available. It's not something you need to be in like $1 million studio for. You could just put it on your home computer type thing, start fooling around
Hmm.
in there. That all eventually, so now I continue the same path. So now I'm rapping, producing, and digging into audio engineering from, we'll call it 13 years old to 18 years old. And then it's, hey,
Hmm.
what are you going to go to school for? And I'm like, well, I might as well go get somebody to give me a degree or a certification in this stuff. Um, Went to a formal institution where the hell is going on out there? Went to a formal institution where, with all due love and respect, I learned far more in my own years in like self-teaching than I did in that. Sorry, there's a maintenance dude like literally walking around my property right outside the window right now. I think he's getting ready to pull
I
these
get it.
foot long shrubs up out of the gutter. So I'm just making sure I don't gotta reach for the blick. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Uh,
I got you. Listen, I understand. I live in a very active neighborhood.
um, so yeah, like the media thing, my relationship to media production and like this whole business that I run around creative storytelling in the modern media landscape is a
Hmm.
result of me loving the process of writing, recording, producing records, and then just ending up in that place where I'm like, shit, how do I get more people to listen to my record, buy a t-shirt, come to my
Hmm.
show, whatever it is, insert, well, you got to make a video. Well, videos are expensive. That's how I learned. That's how I got into beat making. What do you mean? What do you mean I don't own this beat? What do you
Hmm.
mean I have
Same.
to own the beat? I have to not only be good at rapping, but like find the time and space to do it, and I gotta have a lease or exclusive rights. I said,
Yeah.
what's Fruity Loops? What's Reason? Let's dig into all this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly how it went, man. That's literally how it went. Everything I've never gone to any kind of creative type of school. I haven't done any of that. Like everything I ever learned was just playing with sliders on the computer. Like if I turn this all the way this way, what does it do?
maybe a
And
little
just
YouTube university in
finding
between.
stuff out that way. Oh yeah, definitely. Like it was just I don't know, it's like when you have a certain sound or a certain idea in your head and you're like, man, how do you describe this to somebody when I don't even know the technical terms? Like how do I type in how to make this aesthetic and I don't even know the name of that aesthetic. So it's like I just started messing around with so much until I got to the point where I was like, I think I like where I'm going with this. I like the style that my stuff is coming out in. And it was just a whole lot of exploring, a whole lot of like not being afraid to start it all over because I screwed it up. You know,
Yeah.
like
There's
a
something
whole lot
really
of that
interesting
for
in
a
that.
long
Like
time.
I think it's worth recognizing that kind of the way you just shared that to me sounds like it's almost like you said, I didn't understand the craft well enough to even articulate the questions that I had because I wasn't sure what the right way they would be asked is. So I
Hmm.
had no choice but to go in and get my hands dirty. So like what's dope about that from a creative perspective, in my opinion, is that puts you in a position where like from day one, you're already operating outside of the box because you don't even know where the parameters of the box begin and end. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. I recently had a gentleman come into my office while I was editing some wedding footage. And all right, so real quick, when I make wedding videos, I don't really make like recap videos. I like to make them feel more like you're watching a film. And so that's kind of been my draw. Like that's how I've been able to charge what I charge and get booked is because the folks that want that want it to feel like they're watching a movie trailer that's about to come out and not just a slow motion recap of a wedding. So a gentleman had came in while I was mid edit, mid color grading, and he stops and he's another videographer who's been in the field for a long time. He's like, wow, I never seen anybody color grade that way. And I'm confused because I didn't know there was a different way to do it. I'm just like, what do you mean you never seen anybody do it this way? He's like, oh, the way you stack like this and that. He's like, you color grade it like it's a picture and not a video. I was like, well, I mean, I learned how to take pictures before I learned how to do videos. So I just took what I learned there and put it in the videos.
Yeah.
And he was just completely blown away by the workflow of doing it that way. Excuse me. So it's just like how you were saying, like if you're not traditionally taught, like taught in a traditional sense,
Yeah.
you don't really have the blinders to start with. You know, you just kind
Yeah.
of like, well, we could try this, we could try that, instead of thinking, how do I make it work from this perspective?
Any
It's like you
example
just keep,
And
yeah.
the example you just gave is a great one to like double down on that because another way to look at that is he was so blown away by it because in his mind, it wasn't that he had never seen the approach you were taking before. It sounds
Mm,
like his perception of that approach was that it belongs exclusively over here.
yeah,
Just a little bit of you not knowing enough
yeah.
broke you never had those barriers to begin with, so it sounds like he just grew up and grew into a school of thought where it's okay to stack them like that and it's reasonable to do color grading in said fashion, but only
Hmm.
when it's applicable to a still image. And like that alone is not only blowing his mind, but apparently playing a role in you being booked and busy, right?
Yes, sir.
That's,
Yes, sir. So I mean, that's exciting. How do I say it? It's not that, man, I guess when an outside perspective comes in, because I don't really like when people watch me work. I don't know, it's just weird. I just get in the zone. I start saying weird stuff out loud to myself. I yell at the computer sometimes. And I feel like it's weird when people watch me do that. And so I don't really get the opportunity to share my workflow. So when somebody does come in and see what I'm doing, and they're like, "Wow, I didn't know you could do things like this or do things like that," it kind of helps me feel a little bit more, not say validated, but it makes me feel good to know that I guess I am putting out something that's distinguishable from somebody else's stuff because I decided to go the route of I could teach myself.
yeah.
And I don't know, just I feel like it just applies to everything, even in music. There's some people that before you would qualify it as a terrible mix, but now you have entire genres that
That's lo-fi.
can run. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly what I was gonna go with. Like before, it would be considered that's a terrible mix, man. And you find out, like, well, maybe if I keep terribling it a little bit more,
Yeah, if you terrible at
it,
just enough, that's jazz hop, baby.
yeah, exactly. So it's like I think I feel like I almost went down that track on accident, and I'm very happy that I did because I didn't get the opportunity to have like a mentor in the photo or camera game or anything like that. I didn't have somebody that could say, "Hey, man, it'll be a lot easier if you tried this way," and it would have saved me years of fucking work. I mean, of work. But it's like,
Yeah. But you might have shortened your path, but the place that you'd arrive in said shorter time would be a completely different place, like undeniably
yeah,
so, you know what I mean? Because you'd be influenced by the things that they think are awesome and the go-tos and the key, like this is the only way you do it. You'd be, even if it was subtly, you'd be influenced by the, ooh, well, we never use or we never go about it this way or apply. So all the do's and the don'ts, you'd have some
yeah,
preconceived notions. So it would have taken
yeah,
you less time to get to said destination. I just think they would have been different destinations, you know?
yeah. I agree 100%. I would have got to the rest stop instead of the destination.
Yeah, yeah. You'd gotten there and been like, I'll be damned. Now I'm in this place where my shit looks and sounds and feels like everybody else because I've been training the way everybody else trains.
Yep,
Then you'd be at a
I
busy
agree.
ass bus stop with only 26 seats on one run, you know?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And I think your
Not
approach,
even.
like your background, the type of music that you started making is like hip hop music.
Yes, sir.
So I
So,
think
well,
so
yeah.
much of that come like that type of attitude and work ethic and approach to
Hmm.
creativity is it's in other places and in other genres, but I think there's something about hip hop specifically that's like, what do you mean that's broken? That's not broken. If I put it here and here, it's beauty. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep. I was gonna say something similar along those lines, where a lot of other genres almost feel like you need a team, and this is something where you could really just tell yourself, "Hey, this is what I want to do," and get started on it that same day. Like you don't have to go out and buy anything. You could just start writing right then and there on the spot. Like you don't have to go buy a drum set. You don't have to buy a guitar. You don't got to buy a piano. You don't got to buy none of that stuff. Start writing. And then from there, it could develop to whatever you want it to be. You get like, there's folks that do entire albums off their iPhone, like just with GarageBand.
Yeah. And they
You
and
don't
they
got
made
to,
the beat- and they made the beat on there and everything. You know, they did that
exactly
on the
everything.
FL app or whatever beat making app. You know, the and there's crazy. I mean, that's been happening for at least a decade now. I want to say like Mustard's first beat was like on an iPhone or something. Like there are people who are multi-platinum now who, um, uh, shit, what's his name? He blew the last few years. Metro.
Yep.
with all due love and respect, not necessarily your like born and bred sound designer, audio engineer, like, but a dude who knows when shit sounds fly and maybe more
Yeah.
importantly has the right connections and knows how to do business and market things or connect with the people that get it marketed. Um,
Do, do you remember the Usher song "Love in This Club"
yeah.
and it had Jeezy on it?
Mhm.
Um, that entire song was made with garage band presets. Like the beat, everything was just like they didn't even
Like
construct the beat. Like
stock instruments and shit.
stock instruments and stock presets. Like you could get like a little 4 bar to go on that you could just drop in, and it's like a generic 4 bar sound, and they just did that. They didn't
Just
even really
build
play
off of it.
anything off the generic pre. Like it was almost like a trial garage band, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Yeah,
And they
like when
made
you
a
open a production program and there's like the template in there, they were like, "Oh, this is fly. We're gonna remix this template."
that's what they did. They used the template
Yeah.
and made an Usher hit with Jeezy on it that blew up and was
Makes
everywhere and
sense.
still gets played.
The people at GarageBand and Apple were probably like some time and attention went into curating that demo song. So if you're Atlantic Records or whoever you are, Warner, you say to yourself, shit, you know how much research and development probably went into giving just this demo? Do me a favor, put that note a half step down, change it to a half a, put it in this key, put a little triplet there, just, just enough to leave
Hmm.
it different. We out.
Yep. Oh man, I heard of stories like that happening to folks all the time.
Um,
Like,
Are you shoot? So you're doing wedding projects, you said, but you're doing hip hop stuff too, like music videos?
oh yeah. So my I would say my biggest income comes from the wedding videos just because it's like some of these folks are willing to pay because it's a 1 day. You know, it's not like they're gonna do 40 of these things. So they're willing to pay for the perfect moment.
Hmm.
Um, but I my intro to cinematography and everything was through music videos. Like everything I would do, everything that the way that I shoot, like I shoot all handheld, no gimbals, no equipment, and I do it on a 5D Mark IV, which is almost a 10-year-old camera. It doesn't have any in-body stabilization on it, and I use a pretty beat up Sigma lens that I've dropped and kicked and been rained on, and it's been beat to hell, but it's my it's my trusty lens. So I shoot like that, handheld, and all of that was I learned all that through shooting music videos. Like it's quick running gun. You gotta make things work. Most of my music video clients had like really, really tight time schedules. So it's like, yo, if we can't make this work, what are we gonna do? So music videos really helped me develop the the troubleshooting and the kind of like quick thinking when I'm ever shooting anything else. Like if I'm ever shooting some big corporate stuff and something goes wrong, I could quickly just take a step back, troubleshoot it. Like let's just shoot like this instead. Let's do like this. Maybe we'll cut like that. And it's all because the same music videos. You know, there's a lot of variables that happen in videos, like people playing for 15 people to show up and actually 6 people show up that day. I'm like, all right, cool. How are we gonna make this room look like there's 15 people in it instead of 6? So I'm very grateful for starting with music videos. I feel like if I would have started with anything else, I wouldn't have been able to, I guess, scratch that artistic itch. Because in music videos, you can really do a lot. You know, folks let you do whatever you want most of the time, as opposed
Yeah,
to anything else. A
they're
lot of,
looking to you for vision and input, whereas like with a wedding, the bride and the groom, they know what they expect, but I think
hmm
it's more so they know what they expect to feel.
hmm
Like in watching the video, like they know how it should kind of go and flow and look. So with that, there's kind of more like I could see how you feel that way, I guess is what I'm saying. Where like if you just started doing it and you had the same lens and the same, setup and were ready to go, but started with weddings, um, you're you're playing more to like you're not taking the lead as much. I feel like in the music video scene, you get to take the lead. No, you guys go here. All right, we're gonna do it
Yeah.
again, but this time look over here like this when these words come up, and people are like, oh shit,
Hmm.
all right, he's got the vision. Yeah, yeah. Whereas a wedding is like the wedding's gonna happen around you the way it's gonna happen around you, and it's still
Yeah.
a responsibility to take those moments and create said vision.
Yeah. And at the wedding, you're the background. At the music video, I'm the director. So I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, guys, this is what we're doing. And I get to like really go in and have a lot of fun with that. Like I've been to a lot of cool places because of music videos. So I'm really happy about that. Like got a chance to be in Chicago, work with Montana 300, Houston, um, out to Boston a lot of times, Florida. Like music, man, music videos are just fun, man. No, how to say. Like it's fun when you got an artist that believes in their craft. It's when you first start out, you got to deal with the guys that want to have a video just because other guys have music videos. But when you come across an artist that's like, hey, this is what I want to do, and I trust you to supplement my vision, man, that's a lot of fun because
Oh
then
yeah.
you get to really get going.
Which um which of the scenes do you feel like you're uh aware of enough to talk about like the hip hop scene and culture there in terms of like geography? We mentioned you were, you know, close to within reach of like those three cities that we mentioned. So what did we say?
Oh,
Buffalo,
okay,
Pittsburgh,
Cleveland and Pittsburgh.
and Cleveland, right? So like
Hmm.
do you feel confident enough in all three of them to be able to say? Because really, what I want to ask you, like in a world where you got active connections and you're tied in and observant, and or you've shot gigs in all three of those places, part of me wants to ask a question like, hip hop is hip hop at this level. But when you visit those three cities, there are probably many, many micro differences, especially in 2024. What's the
Hmm.
scene like in any given one of those cities in terms of hip hop music and culture?
So Pittsburgh has a lot of shows. Pittsburgh, I feel noticed. I noticed that Pittsburgh really they had a they have a really good run, and they had a really good run pumping out national acts for a little bit. Uh, they put out they got Wiz, Mac, then they Hardo and Jimmy Wapple who passed away the same day. XXX Tension passed away. They were both killed the same day. Um, so there was like a pretty good patch of Pittsburgh artists that was going hard. Then there was like I don't want to call it a recession, but felt like there was a little break where a lot of folks are trying to run a similar sound. And then you started getting guys like Joe Kellum, uh, Chill God, and Pet Zebra, who started coming out with a very distinct sound for himself. Not so much a Pittsburgh sound, but like, hey, it's okay to be yourself, not sound like a region type of thing. And that
Mhm.
style was sounding pretty cool. But I think Pittsburgh had a really cool run. Buffalo's going through what do you call it? I don't want to say a renaissance, but that whole Griselda thing that happened out there. If you're familiar with like Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine, uh Fly God, what's his name? Either way, those guys they they brought that gritty like Wu-Tang-ish sound back to hip hop to the forefront, and they kind of just tweaked it a bit to give more of a modern sound. So the Buffalo's going through like a nice little run with that kind of sound as well. So that's pretty exciting. Um, and Cleveland has Doughboy out, who I'm a fan of. He has a song on that iPhone commercial. I say out of the three, Pittsburgh still got it.
Yeah.
They still got the run.
Stylistically, are they like distinguishably different? I mean, obviously within each city there's hundreds of acts and thousands of sounds and like so I'm asking you to paint with very broad strokes or like cast a wide net conversationally.
Mm,
But I guess another way to say it is um in 2024 where everything is so heavily Atlanta influenced sonically. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love it.
mm,
But in a world where that's the case, you feel like they still have their own sort of regional nuances to the sound, to the approach, or is it like 808s and triplet hi-hats everywhere you go throughout and again, we're painting with super broad strokes, so like there's no way you can
right,
answer this question one way or the other and not upset somebody. So sorry about that.
right, right.
But like, um, yeah, and I guess another way to do so without saying like, nah, fuck it, everybody sounds the same, is like maybe we could find the word or the characteristic that you think is exclusive to Cleveland hip hop that isn't
Hmm.
as prominent in Pittsburgh hip hop or anything like that.
All right, so I say Buffalo has the most distinction out of the three, and I would say, all right. I felt like Pittsburgh was putting out more consistency for the longest time,
Hmm.
but um, Buffalo has the more distinction in their sound. Like their accents are just a little bit harder. Like they have, all right, so they Buffalonian rappers kind of talk like pirates, and I feel like so when you hear that, you're definitely just like, oh, that's a Buffalo rapper. Like that's a Buffalo artist, and I think you could do that more with Buffalo than you can with the three different towns in that region, and they tend to have more of a I don't want to call it gritty, but almost like a grittier. You just feel like there's a little bit more of a crunch in their music. I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but a
From
bit of a
like a
crunch
production standpoint or from like the MC themselves.
from the. I'd say a little bit of both when you ask like that, but definitely production standpoint. I feel like it's a lot of storytelling rappers from Buffalo, and they that crunch really helps with that.
Yeah. It's grit definitely comes to mind. Let me maybe switch gears away from dangerous city specific hip hop questions and get back to videography, whether it's hip hop, whether it's music videos or weddings or anything in between. We talked a lot about coming from uh non-traditional origins and like putting shit together on your own and maybe a little bit of YouTube university and trial and error. That's
Hmm.
all fun and good, but fast forward in the modern day, we got Chat GPT. We got AI at our fingertips to tell us any and everything we could ever possibly think we might need to know or understand a little better. So I guess I'm gonna try and have two sub conversations with you, and that is um what are some of the pitfalls and dangers of leveraging AI as a videographer? And as it relates, are there any ways that you're using it that you'd be willing to share, whether it's high level or micro shit in your process?
I love AI. Love it, love it, love it. I'm a big fan of it. I highly recommend that people at least try to use it. Um, I look at it as a tool. Like folks are saying, like, hey, it's gonna put creatives out of business, but it's AI doesn't work without prompts. Like you got to know what you're talking about with AI. Like you got to know what to tell the AI for the AI to give you what you want. And if you don't have an artistic vision to begin with, it's going to be really hard to pull out an artistic creation from the AI. So, like, I think folks kind of get the impression that you just tell AI, like, hey, give me a picture of a man doing this. And it'll probably just give you that plain and simple. But if you want it to look amazingly cool, you got to say, hey, give me a picture of a man doing this painted in the style of, and you go down a list of 6 or 7 different painters, and then you add a photographer style on top of it, and then you can add say, hey, with iridescent colors and with you start going down the list of prompts that you add to it, and then you get end up with something crazy where people are like, oh, I can't believe AI made that. It's gonna take everyone's jobs. It's like you got to.
You needed
It's a tool,
somebody
you
who
know,
was
like
super creative to begin with to be able to do that, probably, right? Like that, you needed to have,
exactly.
like you said, you
Yeah,
need to have that vision in order to be able to generate the prompt that gives you said result. Like it's not just,
exactly.
creating masterpieces from third grade level prompts that are being entered into it. So what's an
Yeah.
example of a way that it's helpful to you in your process, whether it's music videos or weddings or anything in between.
With AI, I've done everything from I've made album cover art with AI. Like I put out an album 2023 called it was Taino Tears, and I the prompts I wanted, like basically paraphrased, was the Taino Indians, but in a Renaissance painting, Renaissance style, a Taino Jesus, but in a Renaissance painting style kind of thing. And it almost looks like the 16th chapel, like with Michelangelo, and they got the touching figures and all that cool stuff. But it's in a Native American Taino Indian style as opposed to traditional European style.
Right.
And I use something like that for an album cover. So that was through AI. But I also use, like, say if I took a picture during a photo shoot and parts of the picture was like the usable part was very slim, I could cut that out and then go to Photoshop, expand out to how far I really want the composition to be, and generatively fill in what I want to be there. So I would have, if I wanted more grass, if I wanted less people, if I
Yeah.
wanted horses in there, do all that through the AI instead of having to Photoshop layers of actual
Yeah,
horses.
yeah.
Let AI make it,
It's so
and
crazy how many solutions generative AI has, like alternative processes to solutions AI
mm-hmm.
put out of business. I'm in like a Premiere Pro Facebook group or six, and one of them was somebody saying like, oh, what was it? It was like an overhead camera doing like a rotating angle, and they caught shadows of the two human subjects in the middle of the room, and they were like, how do I get rid of the shadows? I was like, oh shit, let me check the comments. That'd be an interesting process. Like, I'm sure there are things to do and layers and like well, how we get there. I'd be interested in knowing a little bit. But it's a dozen people talking about using generative AI. I was like, oh shit, it's a different
It's
day.
the best. It's the best. It cuts your editing time down by hours and hours and hours. You really just fill it in, generative AI, generative fill. I even use it on my phone. Like I have my Adobe apps on my phone as well, like Lightroom, Photoshop. And if I'm ever working on something, like say I'm out and about, I don't have my camera on me, but I got my phone, get some cool pictures. I'll edit them on the app in phone, and same thing. Like somebody has scratches or pimples, generative AI clean it all up, all from the phone. Never even have to touch a computer.
Jeez.
It's lovely.
Nice. I use it a lot. Well, not the generative, but in podcast production and editing, I'll use AI to analyze transcripts. Like so much of
Mm,
what I've done for such a long time is help personal brands take long form content and repurpose it. So, how do I get a busy but insightful and charismatic person to do an hour-long podcast that I can turn into pictures and video clips and, graphic elements and blog posts for the next month, um, to repurpose those. And for a long, long, long time, there was time that I spent countless hours watching and listening to other people's podcasts, which guess what? Aren't always very interesting or entertaining. Um, and looking for micro content, like, and then copying and pasting timestamps into spreadsheets, and so, and now it's literally like, here's a podcast transcript between Steve and Kelvin. Give me a list of impactful quotes that were made exclusively by Kelvin. And now I got a list. Or it's, give me a list of highlights um, from Kelvin's speaking segments along with timestamps for the in time of each one. So now I'm leveraging these resources to identify all those spots, extract them, give me the timestamp so that I can go back and do the micro edits. Like, dude, so it's not even in the edit itself with generative AI, but when I put it to you that way and say it's also
Mm-hmm.
saved me countless hours, and like peace of mind, bro. If I was still listening to, because some of the people I work with, don't get me wrong, um, are tremendous speakers and tremendous thinkers and have super interesting podcasts. On the other hand, I'm a service provider, and if you're just getting started and have no idea where step one is, then I'm also editing those podcasts too. And I used to have to listen to every second of every minute of those, which
Mm-hmm.
is honestly the type of shit to make you resent what you do for a living. So,
That's kind of what I do right now.
yeah, yeah,
Talk about I do podcast production as well. Um, and so I definitely get what you're saying because once I'm done editing an entire episode, because I'll bring the folks into the studio, set them up for a backdrop they want. They want green screen, they want infinity wall, whatever it is. They'll speak for about 2 hours. I, we film with 3 cameras, get everything ready, nice and good. And then after all that's done and finally put on the computer, it's like, okay, now it's time to listen to this again. And how you said the micro content that could be put out. So it's almost like you're editing 4 different times the same thing.
yeah, and
So
you could
that
try to be smart about it. Like, I've done shit with things like that where I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna be here anyway running the camera, let me pull out another device, or let me grab a pen and pad and I'll check my timestamps and I'll listen to the conversation while there. But it's like, yo, how am I supposed to do that? I'm the cinematographer right now. I also happen to be the lighting guy and the audio guy, but now I'm supposed to be remove myself from all this technical stuff and be the highest level. It's not even the director's scope of responsibility when I think about it like that. It'd be like a completely separate job to sit
yeah,
there and
like
analyze and timestamp for micro content and be so actively engaged in the conversation, that it's just like you got to pick and choose which hats you're gonna wear well that day. And I'm not about to
yeah,
be a shitty cinematographer because I'm too busy looking down at my notepad the whole time. So shit, if
exactly.
you are doing it, keep doing it. And if you're not doing what I was just talking about, get started yesterday. Because once you get your
Yeah.
final long form edit down, even if your camera switches aren't right, the audio
Mm-hmm.
that can then be repurposed as the transcript, that transcript is where your gold is from,
Yeah,
using chat gpt to give you highlights for graphics or segments for video clips, right? Give it parameters. If you roll in a world where you're like, my TikToks only do well if they're less than 30 seconds long, like you said in the beginning of this recording, like, make sure you tell chat gpt that so you get the right shit out of it.
exactly. Exactly. That's the biggest thing. Like it's like if you know your tools, know what you need out of your tools. Like I know when I know that I'm gonna have a situation where like, hey, there's a lot going on in the background. Composition's gonna be rough. At least now I know my workflow before I even get started. I know I'm gonna have to do some AI stuff, like just plan for it. as I'm working. So it'd be the same thing, like how you were saying during the podcast production. Be the best cinematographer on shoot day, and then switch hats for the other day.
Yeah.
Because it's super hard to wear too many hats on the same day, man. And you feel like you just end up half-assing everything.
Yeah. And it reminds me, like, I'm suddenly reminded when I hear that of like, oh, well, that's AI doing somebody else's job. And it's like, while that may be the case for here and now, like that could easily be, you could have gone and hired somebody maybe to stand there and do that. Also, maybe you couldn't, bro. Maybe you couldn't
Yeah.
hire somebody, and maybe option B isn't hire somebody and have them work under or with Kelvin.
Hmm.
Maybe option B is the podcast never fucking happens and we don't record it because I just can't. I can and I can do it this way. And maybe you get to a place one day where you're like, man, I'm doing this so much and AI does, and, has these nuanced errors where like I need to bring a person in. But
Yeah.
if not, a person wasn't going to be doing it anyway because it would either be
Yeah.
that or the
It's
highway.
Instead of taking somebody's job, it's like it's just taking my job. That's all it is. It's like
Right. It's
taking my
just
job
taking
from
right
myself.
more of what would have been shit I was doing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What do you got on the horizon, man? What do you got coming up work wise?
All right. So I do a lot of different things. I try to keep my hands busy. I'm a full-time artist. Like I live off of just creating stuff. Either if it's through my camera, music, like sometimes I recently spoke at an art gallery about my music video production process. They had me there for like an hour. And it was my first time doing something like that. And it was full of people that I didn't think cared anything about music videos, like way older people, people that go to art galleries and evaluate the paintings. Not evaluate, but just, kind of ask, what do you think this means? So it felt like those were those kind of people sitting there.
Yeah.
And I'm showing them a bunch of music videos with guys running around doing crazy stuff. And they were all like very excited. They had so many questions. It was very engaging. It gave me the opportunity to really, I guess, I felt validated, like as as a creator, as a self-taught creator, you kind of think like, damn, am I doing this the right way? Like, is it just look good to me? But then you get the opportunity to speak and everybody there is super excited. And when you're done, they all want to keep coming and asking questions. Like, you know what? I'm doing something right. I'm doing this right. So that's kind of like what I was recently doing past
Yeah.
couple of weeks, and now I'm back into also DJ. So this Friday, I got a whole party that I'm DJing for myself, not a party for myself, but this gallery asked if I wanted to throw a party, like a Sands party. I'm like, absolutely, here I come. So they have me DJing there. That's going to be a lot of fun. The very next day, we have our like local Celebrate Erie Festival. So that's about a couple of days long, and it's bringing a whole bunch of artists from around everywhere. And I'm DJing a few of those stages. And then later that night, a bunch of places are going to be partying. So I got to DJ one of those spots. So it's like a good camera free weekend, which sometimes feel good.
Oh yeah.
And I get to just do music related things and still get paid for it. So it's like,
And you didn't have to
ooh,
make any of the
it's a
music, that's the best part. Is you do
exactly,
your video shit, you got to play
exactly.
your video for somebody else. You get paid to DJ, you're gonna be
Yep,
spinning records that everybody else produced, like shit that was stolen from garage.
exactly. Exactly. All I'm doing is curating. That's what I feel like when I'm DJing. I'm just curating a vibe. So I come in. I have a couple songs in mind that I'll start with, but I usually as soon as I walk in, I'm looking at everybody in there. It's like, what are these people gonna like? And then just go from there. There's times where I end up in a place where I'm just like, you know what? These folks will appreciate some good house party vibes, and I'm playing some Wayne Wonder and Kevin Light and some cool stuff like that. And then there's other times I walk in, I was like, people look like they want to fight each other. They put some key lock on there, and I'll just feel out the vibe. So I'm grateful. I'm super 110% grateful to be able to say that things that I'm passionate about are able to keep my head above water. Like sometimes I get tired of doing camera work. Like sometimes I get a little burnt out about it, so I have the opportunity to DJ for 3 days, and it's like I get to take a break from camera, but I don't have to miss out on income. So that it's a very relieving feeling, that I don't have to burn out myself out doing one thing.
Oh man. Well, it sounds like you got a good thing going, and I'm excited for you. I, for better or worse, fortunately can relate to um being in that position of still being active with whatever it is you were most interested in as a kid, you know what I mean? So you took to music
Hmm.
and creativity and all that stuff, and it's it can be difficult, and when it's tough mentally, emotionally, financially, especially if you're
Well,
like an
yeah.
entrepreneur, but let alone in these creative spaces. And when I started podcasting in like 2016 and 17, I learned this question from you know who Brian Tracy is? He's like an old school sales coach. Like if you asked Gary V, no, maybe not Gary V. I don't know. If you went back a generation or two
Hmm.
from like a Grant Cardone, maybe, you end up with this class of people that today folks would call like motivational or like
Mm.
business coaches or sales coaches. But people would approach this dude Brian Tracy a lot and say, um, I don't know what I should be doing with my life. You have all the tactical tips on how to execute in whatever given arena you work in. What if I just lack purpose in such a way that I don't even know what arena to deploy these steps into? Where should I start? What should I do? Who should I be? And he would say, I ask those people, think about what meant the world to you when you were like 10, 11 years old. If he was talking, to boys, obviously things are different now, but he would say, if I'm talking to a guy, I'll say before you started looking at girls a little different in school, before they started looking at you a little different, before your friendships got more complicated, before the schoolwork really started getting a little harder, when you were 9, 10, 11 years old, what meant the absolute world to you? And then once people come up with that answer, he would say, do more of that or do
Mm.
something like that. And so I would ask this question all of the time that would really catch people like intellectually. They'd be like, oh, good question. And emotionally, they'd be like, oh, fuck, I wasn't expecting to hear that today. But it would basically be the question of like, yo, you as the CEO today or the videographer, you in the role that you're in today in life as an adult professional, can you step back and think about what meant the world to you at 10 years old? And more importantly, connect that to what you're doing today. And you don't necessarily have to answer that because I feel like we've been answering that for the last 60 minutes. I guess my
Mm.
point is just that, like, every day, even though the struggles are real, I feel gratitude in that there are countless, countless people in my community, in my circle, friends, family, neighborhood, the world, who will never remember what that thing was at 10 years
Mm.
old because bills came about and shit started happening and cars needed to be fixed and people needed to eat, and like all of that's super real. But all of that to say, like, I'm grateful for you to be in that situation and for me to be in the same, because some people felt passion for something at 9, 10, 11 years old and haven't thought about that thing in 15 years and may never again. And to some degree,
Hmm.
you're thinking about that shit every day, every other day, and getting paid for it a lot of times. So something to be pumped about, even though shit's tough on the day to day, you know?
Oh yeah, brother. Yeah, the day to day can get tricky, but I guess every here I went full time 2019, and because I broke my leg in 2018 and my job fired me after that. We're just like, nah, you can't keep you around. and I was doing the camera stuff part time at that time. And I was, you know what, maybe I could do something. And by February of 2019, I was getting flown out to Chicago, well, to Milwaukee and then to Chicago all for like a week straight. That was my first attempt at like trying to be completely self-employed. So that kind of put a little fire in me, like, bro, all you needed to do was try this and look, like just stop being afraid of the not having the security of a job. And as soon as I did, it kind of just started rolling in, and it just made me feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing. And there's been some tough times throughout there where, like how you say, being an entrepreneur, you just kind of like, holy shit. And I've tried getting a day job here and there, and I never make it past day one. I'm just like, man, this is dumb. I'm out of here. Like, not saying that people can't work day jobs. It's just like for someone as myself that like I got used to the point of like providing the service. Like, hey, my art's being asked for, and the people are willing to give me money for it. So I got so used to that, and like I would be in the bathroom. I remember just typing in a paycheck. I mean, the hourly rate into the calculator to estimate a paycheck. I was like, if I got to stay here 5 days, how much am I going to make? Looking at it, saying if I work 40 hours, I'm going to make the same as I would have working one day at a shoot.
And of
I'm
those
just like,
5 days, one of those days would be to pay the government. You know what I'm saying? You'd go to
yeah,
work those
exactly.
5 days and you'd lose one day's worth of money out of those five to pay your taxes. And again, like you start headed in that direction. Some of it's passion and purpose and being able to do that stuff. And some of it's just straight up the financials of it, of once you've had the opportunity to be paid the type of money that could allow you to grow and flourish and be comfortable in life, or I guess more specifically, more accurately, once you've been paid in line with the value of whatever you provided. You know what I'm saying? Like once
Hmm.
you get into a
Hmm.
place where you can create value and decide what that value is worth, let alone you get the validation of somebody pays you that a couple of times and you say, oh, okay, all right, this is actually doable. Stepping
Yeah,
into any environment to bullshit over 12, 15, $20 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever it feels like, you're like, yo, I gotta listen to these people. I gotta work for them. I have to work for them, my customer, and these are like the process. Everything's broken. Nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean? They're all just there to have a job, and you're like, or I could like have to really put my nose to the grindstone, but at least know that what I'm a part of is making a fucking impact or like something I can live with and live
yeah,
on more so, right?
yeah.
Because that 40 hours a week, like you say, you got to put in 4 weeks
That's not for me.
to get a full shoot's worth of pay.
Yeah, I remember I tried Amazon a couple of years back, and the guy that was training me tells me, he's like, hey, no, I asked him, I was like, hey man, when's lunch? He's like, oh, we're not taking a lunch break. We gotta hit these numbers. I was like, what? You
Oh,
gotta hit these
gosh.
numbers. I'm gonna hit a 4 for 4. Like, I ain't no way I'm doing this stuff.
That's crazy,
Same
bro.
thing. Yeah, and then I tried after that, I tried one more time getting a job. Same thing. I spent one day there. I walk in and just like, hey, I noticed you guys don't have a social media for your business and you guys really rely on outreach. I think I can help you guys. And they're like, yeah, I mean, that's something we could do eventually, but for now, we need you to do this for 8 hours. I'm like, at hour six, I'm like, you know what? This ain't for me, man. If you guys
Yeah,
need a commercial, call me up, but
yeah, because you
I'm
think
not
about
staying
all the
here.
shit you could have been doing in that time. If I had
Like,
a fucking dollar for every time I went back into one of those environments and you catch yourself like standing around at some bullshit job and you're like, I would fucking cold call right now to shoot a new music video instead of doing this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's exactly where I was at. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I left, told them, thank you for your time, but I can't do this. Left,
right.
went home, stressed out for a week, and then went and found some work. Like, just started bugging people. Like, I know y'all need some work. And then got me right back, snowball effect. I'm back in action again. It's just sometimes you just need that little break, a little not break, more like a reality check, a reminder, like, hey, bro, if you really hate what you're doing right now, you could have a day job. And it's like, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just
Vice versa, I think it's important to also recognize for the people that are out there doing the day job thing here in this conversation and being like these motherfuckers. I think the alternative way to look at that is if you're one of those people and you have that day job and you're hating that day job, you could go do some different shit.
yeah, for real.
At
Like,
minimum, you could just not be at that job. And like
yeah,
everything else in life, it's a choice. There's not be at that job and become homeless, go broke, whatever it is. But like there are alternatives out there. There are guys
yeah.
like, you know, Gary Vee who does shit where like he runs a media marketing company and still goes out and like flips shit from garage sales on the weekend just to make a point to people to be like, yo, there's money out there. And I'm not saying
I was
times
just gonna
aren't
say
tough or
that.
whatever, but I think that a lot when I deal with like service industry stuff, and I grew up working in restaurant hospitality, customer service, so that's no dig altogether. But that's just to say, like, I can't tell you. I feel like it's more and more frequent that I have interactions with servers or bartenders or barista or people in service related positions. And from my core, I want to say to them, you know, you could quit, right? You know, the door
That's
out
my
is the same
favorite.
door you took in, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, and I get that like there's shit and it's not that easy, and but like also it is, you know?
Yeah, I'm really big on uh F that job energy. Like if I've been fired from a lot of jobs before I went full time with this stuff. Like I've been fired from a lot of jobs because it's just like you kind of feel like it's like, man, I don't like this. You guys are really pissing me off. And they kind of respond, I don't know, management treats you with like, yeah, well, too bad you need this. I'm like, do
Yeah.
I?
Yeah,
Do I? Or do
and
you
if you
need
know
me?
that you don't
Like,
necessarily need that, then you end up becoming like this type of energy with management because they're rolling around with that BDE, you know what I'm saying? They're
mm-hmm.
big boss, and here you are kind of rolling with this casual energy of like, all right, I'm here and I'm playing your game for this minute, but like don't get it twisted. I could walk outside and trip over as much money as I'm about to make here today. So, you know.
Yeah. Big fan of letting folks know, man, job's just a job. Don't let them people trick you into thinking you got to be there. Because they hit you with all that fat, we're family stuff, and they guilt trip you into doing more than what you're asked to do. I mean, supposed to do. And they don't pay you extra for it.
Mhm.
So just, your job is just a job.
For
Don't worry
sure.
about that work. Worry about your passion.
If you're having a hard time making bills, if you're feeling like maybe your pitcher is running on empty, but you also happen to work at a place that uses that family word and or is big on pizza party celebrations, it might be time to take heed to this message and do a
Yeah,
discount
they're not gonna give you a raise.
space. So dope, man. Well, I'm gonna give you a call. You got a minute when we wrap here?
Absolutely.
Cool. I'm gonna give you a
Absolutely.
call when we hang up and shoot the shit for another minute or two with you because there's just a lot of common ground. I think there's opportunity not only to circle back and have some more good conversation, but I think there might be opportunities for us to contribute to each other's momentum too. So I appreciate you
All right.
shooting the shit with me here, and I'll keep you in the loop on all the links and resources that come as a result of our chatting. But I appreciate the time and you just keeping it candid and being real, man. But I'm gonna call you on Instagram here in just a sec. All right.
All right, brother.
All right. Cool, man. Peace.